Welcome to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, thanks so much for tuning in and listening to today's show. Now, as you listen to the show, listen, I get it. Change is hard. Sometimes we choose it, sometimes we don't. And when we don't, I think that's the hardest thing to try to navigate, right? Because it wasn't a chosen path. So to help you on your navigational path of change, I have a free gift for you. Go to my website. It's whitmanassociates.com/CSA, and you'll get your free communication style assessment, which will give you an idea of how you show up, how people see you when you communicate, and will also give you your lowest style, or the style that's the least like you, which is probably the conversations that might feel hard, or that you always feel like you're in conflict. So that report will really shine some light for you and empower you to get control of your communication. So hopefully that helps you as you navigate the change in your life. So again, whitmanassociates.com/CSA, my wonderful gift to you, because I love you all. Now, my motivational quote today is by Chris Hogan. And Chris says, if you're going to have a real dream, you will need a real plan. Now, I grew up in a household where my parents said things like, money doesn't grow on trees. You must save for a rainy day. Get a job with benefits and a 401k. You have to pay the piper. There's no free lunches. And the list goes on and on. Do any of them sound familiar to you guys? Well, I'm not criticizing my parents by any means. But on the contrary, they both grew up in the aftermath of the 1929 crash, the Depression, life-changing event to say the least, right? So as an adult with retirement pressing down on me, right, turning 60, what do I believe about money? And what am I teaching my kids who are in their 20s? And these are super important questions to contemplate, because what served my parents and what's going to serve me and ultimately serve my kids, probably dramatically different. So where do we go for a clear and correct information about money? Well, of course, I have a guest for this, right? And my guest today is Anna Felix. Now, Anna is a California native and smart money strategist. Her background is in education and linguistics intelligence. Her roles as wife, mother, interpreter, business consultant, and business owner were fulfilling and brought her happiness. When she became a widow in 2010, she felt that she needed to become more financially savvy. Her search left her feeling that there had to be better information. She decided to turn in pain into purpose. She's so powerful and wonderful. And today she empowers her clients with financial strategies that will make them financially bulletproof. So please help me welcome Anna to the show. Anna, thank you so much for being on, and your story is really important.
Thank you so much, Connie. Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to share it, because I know it will impact people on some level, and so that's what I do today.
It's amazing how you find your path, even through that tragedy, right? Change that was thrust upon you. You didn't want that for sure. And yet your search for self. And now you think, wow, how many other people were like me that I can empower? So to find your passion and to find your cause through that tragedy and loss, that's miraculous, I think. And that's why I think your story is really, really important. So first question, curious about your title. I love it. Why smart money strategist?
Well, when I first started in this industry, and you tell people you're a financial planner, or whatever, you just kind of see their eyes glaze over, like, boring. And so it really came out of it's true. I do really strategize to help people be smart with their money. So it just kind of made sense. But, everyone has a different money story, and I can really help them unpack that. I say, let me be your financial GPS, like literally lead them through life as they deal with those changes. Some of them that they're planning, like, jobs and moving and getting married and having children, and others, like things that I experienced that, you don't anticipate: accident, losing loved ones, obstacles, setbacks, all of those things. And just like a traditional GPS, like, okay, it's, we gotta reroute, we gotta do something different. And so that really happens with our money goals too. So I help people do that.
It's interesting, right? Because I think the most important thing, a lot of people say family, which I don't disagree with to some extent, but I believe health is first, Family is second, because if I'm not healthy, I can't take care of my family. And the third is the financial, because again, if I'm not healthy and I don't have the means, and not that we have to have $1,000,000, that's not what I'm saying, but we have to be able to pay bills so that we could keep a roof over our head and feed our children, right? And be able to pay for things that we need. I'm not saying that we want, but the things that we need, those bare minimum basics. Through your life, when your husband was alive, did he pay the bills and take care of the financial things, or was it a partnership?
It was very much a partnership. And so that part of the piece of the financial, I was very familiar with. Like, we kind of both did it together. We'd sit down and pay bills kind of in that traditional way. And so I was really happy for that, because there are many women that do become widowed and they have no clue how that works. And so, they're not sure. I recently worked with a gal that didn't even know where to send the money to pay the mortgage. Like, she had no idea. And of course, there was a little bit of a language barrier there. English was not their first language. So there was a lot he spoke better English. So for her, that kind of became the crutch, and that's how that happened. But yeah, I mean, I felt like, we were very much partnered in that. But once he was gone, I realized that really the load was, as far as like future plans and that type of thing, he just understood that stuff better. So it was just easier to let us play to our strengths. And, even in our business that we had, I was always the face of the business, dealt with the clients, and because that was just kind of my personality. So, I think in a relationship, there are times when I talk to the women, and they're the ones that make all the money decisions. And they often say, you know what, it's kind of a converse thing. I need to let my husband know, like, this is where all of our stuff is. This is where the wills are. Because they're like, he wouldn't have a clue. So in many relationships, it really doesn't matter if it's, it could
You're
be the
right.
man, it could be the woman, but everyone really needs to know what's going on, because you just don't know what'll happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. My parents are 91 and 90, and my mother-in-law, I think, is
Wow.
88 or 89. Yeah, God bless. All of them are living
Yeah.
independently, very blessed, right? From that perspective. But as they age, my mom and dad, and that's what I said, I don't criticize them, because they taught us so many really wonderful values about money. And one of the things, like, my dad did the power of attorney. So each of us are on different accounts. So if God forbid something happens, we have money to pay nursing home or whatever it is, right? We could sell the house. If God forbid we needed to do a reverse mortgage, if we need to do that. So my father positioned, now my mother, not so much. My father was really the money person. And when I say that, not that he hid it from my mom, but he was the one who handled it, And as he aged, because he's still very vibrant, that he had the wherewithal to, guys, this is this, my brother, this is where the thing is in the safe. This needs to be there. And so we all know, or we, the four of us kids, are very well versed. And it's funny, because I said to my husband, now as we see them aging, and, I had a friend who's my age, passed due to COVID. And so my husband and I have been talking more and more about, we're not 20 anymore, right? Not that when you're 20, you're invincible. And so we have everything, but my kids don't know about it. And they're 22 and 25. And every time we want to tell them, though, and it's funny, they go, no. We're like, you can't bury your head. You can't bury your head. So I do feel it's a parental responsibility to be able to teach our kids so that they do feel impact. Because you know what, when you lose someone, there's a tremendous mourning period, but the money, you still have to know what to do with the money, because the bills keep coming in. Nobody wants to hear that you lost someone, right? So always want to make sure that we're teaching and educating. So I love what you do. And I do respect, and I hope everybody heard what Anna said. Her and her husband, they played to their strengths, which is life. That's usually what we do. We get more done. We could do it quicker because we're playing to our strengths. But then when something unforeseen happens, now you have to do everything. So my next question, your story is beyond interesting, right? That you really did have some sense of the money, so to speak, not so much the future planning, but the day to day. What led you to the financial service?
Yeah. So crazy story. After my husband died, and like you said, like within 2 weeks, I had to sell a vehicle. I had a bunch of things happen, and it's just like, you got to figure stuff out. And so I realized that was the big thing that I realized was, I need to figure out this money thing. Like, what am I doing? Like so in our situation, we'd had a very severe car accident 5 years before. And so for 5 years, I had really just been in survival mode, literally. I mean, I had a husband and my daughter with brain injuries. My day consisted of therapies and all of those, going to doctor's appointments and all of those type of things. So I felt like for 5 years, the financial piece of our life had just kind of been on hold, because okay, you need this medicine. Okay, fine, we'll pay for it. I don't know where it's coming from, but we just got it. You just kind of go in that mode.
Sure.
And so after the aftermath of all that, and then you've got funeral, and in my case, my mom passed away 39 days after my husband. So I literally did 2 funerals in 40 days. Like, it was just crazy.
Horrible.
And so as the dust settled, what kept coming up for me is, man, I need to figure out my money stuff. Like, I'm basically going to start over at 42, and I want to be smart about it. Like, the very minimum, I want to start this thing over on a good foot. So I just kind of wanted to talk to someone, to ask questions, to there were a lot of things I didn't know. I didn't know what an annuity was. I didn't feel well versed in these things. And
Sure.
so I went looking for help, and I met with several financial planners, and I kept getting, several of them gave me the sense of, they just wanted to sell me a bunch of stuff and they didn't really want to talk to me. And that wasn't a good feeling. Right?
We don't like that.
No, not at all. And the last one is just what took the cake. And I actually should be grateful to him, because it made me so upset that it created this whole process. But what he said to me was, you don't need to understand all this stuff. It does me no good to try to answer your questions. Just let me take care of the money part of the stuff, and you go marry a rich guy and you'll be fine.
Horrifying.
I know, right? I kept thinking, what year is this? Like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. I'm sure that my mouth was wide open, because I just couldn't believe what I had just heard. And so I just quickly excused myself. I said, you know what, we're done. I'm not going any further in this conversation. And as I was walking to my car, it just occurred to me, like, this had been the 3rd or 4th person I had met with. And I thought, Anna, I wonder if you could become the person that you're looking for, because clearly they don't exist. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know, if I could actually do it or not, but I just felt like, I get what people really need, and I get what it's like to be in this situation, stressed out, needing to make certain decisions, and this not being the best time to do them.
Yes.
And just having, someone that could be like, yeah, okay, so what is it about this that you don't understand? And the other thing I forgot to mention was, I loved the first person I met with was all about, well, you should have done this, and you should have had that, and you should have really, like, I get it, but this is where I am now. A lot of stuff has happened. So can we just start where I'm at right now? Because that's really what I need to focus on. So, like I say, I guess I should just be grateful for that. But it was really horrifying to me that was still being said, and that somebody couldn't just, be excited about the industry that they're in and say, yeah, I'm excited that somebody wants to know something about it, right? Like, I'm feeling like that should be the thought process. But it is what made me feel like maybe I could contribute something to the industry.
See, it's need, right? You had a need. You searched and searched, and you got, I'm sorry, ridiculous responses.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. The shoulda, woulda, coulda. That ship has sailed, dude. Like, well, what do I do now? Right. I can't go back. So why are we even discussing it? And you know what that serves? It just puts you down. It makes you feel stupid. And you think, I know. You were already feeling like a heap of crap because of the loss of your husband, your mother. Like, are you freaking kidding me? So from this place of dire need, truly dire need, your thought was, wait a minute. I need to help people do this, because I know I'm going to find my answers, which that's the determination that I'm so proud of you for, right? I am determined, and I'm going to get my answers, and I'm going to figure this out because I'm intelligent. But then, you know what? I got to pay it forward, because how many other people, not just women, right? Men are in the same position where they're like, what the hell do I do now? And that's a scary place to be, especially when you're going through the whole grieving process. That's a lot, man. That is a lot to go through.
Yeah, it is. And it's scary because sometimes people get put into situations where they're having, like if they can't afford where they live, like they're going to have to move, they're going to have to make all these major decisions that you really don't want to be doing. I mean, all the grief counselors would tell you, wait a year before you make
Sure.
any like big changes, because how you're feeling right now may not be how you feel 5, 6 months. That first year is very pivotal because you go through all the 5 stages of grief, and you just you go from being angry to being sad to being depressed, and so in that type of a thing, you if at all possible, you don't want to like move and sell your place and all that stuff, because you just don't know where you're going to be at the end of the year. And so but sometimes because of their financial situation, people are forced into making those decisions.
Yeah.
And so it's so much better if you kind of have things mapped out so that you don't have to do that. You can kind of just be in the moment and kind of figure your way through your feelings and not be
Yeah.
making major financial decisions. So
And having a plan is just so important. We plan for everything. And if we're not planning for our money,
yeah,
that's dangerous, right? Because then we can't take care of family. Then if our health fails, you don't have the money to pay for medications and things like that. So having a plan is really important. Who would you say, like if you had to describe your perfect person that you work with, who is it and why kind of have you landed there? I'm curious.
yeah, so it's generally a woman. I mean, that doesn't mean that I don't work with men, but they
Sure.
usually come into my practice through a woman, whether it be their husband or business partner or friend. She's going places, she's doing really well. Maybe she's in a corporate job, but maybe she's an entrepreneur. And she's just reached that point of, I need to be empowered about my money. I need to be smart about this. I keep hearing, all this stuff going on in the media, and I keep hearing things, some of it's conflicting. And I want to know, what is the best thing for me? What do I need to be doing? And so, I'm able to help them. That's the ideal, generally between 35 and 55. I try to get them, if I can start working with someone earlier in life, that's better.
Yeah, of
But
course.
we can just, again, that's my thing, making you bulletproof, because you just never know what's going to happen.
We never know what's going to happen. That's life, right?
Yeah.
It's exhilarating and terrifying at the
Yeah.
same time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And the other thing that I love about working with women is that when you empower a woman with information, the whole community benefits, because she shares it with everybody that she cares about. And so, you share it with them, and it's just like their whole little world and community find out about it. And so it's wonderful because we have that desire to nurture and to care. And
absolutely.
it goes over into this area, because then it's like, oh, I didn't know this. Like, oh my goodness, I need to share this with everyone. Like, how come I've never heard of this? I hear that frequently, but then they're running to go, tell their neighbor, tell their friend, because it's necessary information, and they get that.
It's necessary information when sometimes we don't know it's necessary until it's necessary, right? You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? So in
yeah,
your case, right, even though you were partners with the bills and stuff, he was the future planner, right? Making sure all the ducks were in the row for when you retire. And
yeah,
he never made it that far. And here
right.
you are saying, what do I do now? So that necessary information, and it wasn't available, which is even more terrifying than anything of your story, that the responses that you got from those, half a dozen people of it. I'm sorry, it was ignorance. And here's another thing I want everybody, and I have my Series 7 license and my insurance license. That's how I started my career,
Yeah,
100 years ago. Just because someone has a license doesn't mean they know what they're doing. So,
yeah,
people say I'm a licensed professional. What does that mean? It's phraseology, right?
yeah,
I want to go because these people had licenses that Anna went to, and yet they gave her, oh, you should have done this. So be helpful, not put people down at their worst, right? And
yeah,
that's what I think a lot of that industry has become, unfortunately. And here's the other thing. I hope Anna's story in our conversation if you are thinking, and hopefully you're not in a tragic situation, but you think, holy smokes, I think I better get my money in order. This is an important topic, Anna and Connie, you're talking about, then hopefully you find an Anna so that she actually will answer your questions. And oh yeah, she's a licensed professional too, but she knows what the heck she's doing. So I hope that just the conversation, number one, raises people's awareness, Anna, but also gives them a glimpse into what a really good financial representative or financial partner, and I'm going to call you the partner because I think that's really the position you take. I think being a financial partner is what most people need, especially if finance isn't their background. They didn't have an education in it and they're kind of learning as they go through, right? We need help. We need resources. And you're just a viable resource. And you're fun and you're loving and you're wonderful. So like you're the whole package, right? That anybody could want to work with. All right, here's the thing. I'm going to really test you now. Now that I bolstered you up, here's my next question. If you could teach us and my listeners one golden nugget about retirement, like what would that be? What was the for you, that holy smokes moment?
So like I said, I felt like I didn't know that much about retirement in general, but when I found out that the 401k wasn't the best place to save money for retirement, I couldn't believe it. It was like, but that's what I always hear. Like, when I took a corporate job after my husband died for a while, I mean, that's what I heard about retirement, is that it needed to be in a 401k. So when I found that out, when I found out that there was better places to grow money than in a 401k, I couldn't believe that nobody was saying that, and that it wasn't popular, and that many people didn't know that there were other things to do. So yeah, it's not the end all be all. It's a tool. It can be used. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing necessarily.
That's right.
But there are certain things about it that you need to know and understand, and you might want to mitigate, where you're actually growing your money. So with my company, we say a private reserve account is the best place to do that. But I just feel like so many, I want to say 95% of the people that I meet with have never heard of anything other than like a 401k. Okay. So
isn't that mind blowing? Now it's interesting. I have another gentleman that's going to be on the show. We had a brief conversation, Joshua Zeppis, and he was an engineer and hated his job, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so fast forward, he sat down one day, he's an engineer's mind, right? Mm-hmm. And he went and he identified in his 401k, he was maxing it out. He was making multiple six figures, maxing out his 401k. And he put the calculation into those future value calculators where he was going to max out every year for the next 30 years. He had been 20 years into his 401k and he averaged at a 7% interest rate. He said, which was pretty aggressive, right? He said, but I thought, I'm fairly aggressively positioned within my 401k. I'm going to say the 7%. I'm going to go a little bit on the high side. Let me see how much I have at the end of the 30 years when he would be retiring. Mm-hmm. And he said, Con, there wasn't enough money. And he said that was jarring to him because exactly what you just said. It was like, yeah, you put in your 401k, you max it out and you have enough money. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. And I didn't know this. It's fascinating when you talk to people, right? Because, and I know money because I have a finance degree, right? I have my licenses. Again, because you have your licenses doesn't mean you know everything. And he said to me, when the 401k was introduced into corporate America, pensions were still there. Mm-hmm. You still had a thriving Social Security that was being overfunded, not underfunded, because they didn't borrow against it. Mm-hmm. And he says, and then you had your 401k. So between those three legs of the stool, he said, you would have a stellar, if you put into the 401k additionally, plus your pension, and you put in the time and all of that, you would have enough money to live off of in retirement. He says, but it was the 401k was never invented to be a standalone. And he says, and no one knows this, so that we think I'm maxing out all of these things. And then the other problem is people think they could borrow against their 401k when money's tight. Let me borrow against it. Don't take a loan. And you're depleting that compounding interest for your future. So I think that's it's so funny that in a very short period of time, you're the second person who said the 401k, you should not have a 401k. You should, but don't think it's going to be all end all for you at the end of your retirement, even in your 20s.
Yeah, you're singing my song, Connie. This is what I normally say. This is what I say to people. And, in fact, it's interesting. In 2012, the creator of 401k, his name is Ted Bennett. He said, I created a monster and it should you should not have your money in 401k. And in all fairness to him, it has been changed a little bit since his original creation. Like they've added more fees and they've modified it. So it isn't today specifically what he planned, but again, he did plan it to be used in conjunction with those other things that no longer exist. So
It's a monster.
yeah. And so, poor man, like, what he's done, but he's made it, he's tried to sound the warning that, this isn't what I created. You need to be doing other things, but somehow we haven't all heard that. So
Yeah. And I think it's becoming more transparent, because now we have these future value calculators and people are becoming more aware of their choices. And the 401k just isn't it all. It's not all the things that you need to do. Right.
yeah.
All right. So another question, what are typically the misconceptions that you find people believe in that aren't the truth? Like like the 401k is the be all end all.
Yeah, so that's one of them. Another one is that the 529 plan is the best place to save for college. When you talk college, that's immediately what people think about. And so, actually there's some negative things about that. I mean, number one, especially it's a trend that I'm seeing now, is that money has to be used for education. So a lot of kids are wanting to be entrepreneurs. Like, we're in this whole resignation right now nationwide where people are wanting to create their own businesses and do their own things. So what if you have this, child that has this great business idea and they decide they're not going to go right away to college. They want to fund a business and get started. You won't be able to use 529 money to do that. So it's much better to build that in that same type of plan that I was talking about, where it's just money, right? And so if they are going to go to college, fantastic. We use that for money for college and they're great. But if we had that other scenario where they decided that they want to start a business or they're going to do something else, then you still have the money to get them started with that, because you've not put it in a 529 plan. And then, even for people that are going to use it for college, they don't realize that whatever money is in that type of an account, it counts against you for FAFSA money. So here you are, you've put all this money in with the idea that, this is going to be helpful for college. And then when you try to get federal aid, it's going to count against you for having done that. So it's kind of crazy that, that's how it is, but people don't realize that. So again, if you have that money growing somewhere else that you don't have to use against federal aid, that would be a plus. And people don't realize that that's a thing. So
it's tragic, because these tools are good tools and these vehicles are good vehicles when you have all the facts.
right.
But unfortunately, and I'm sales, right? But I think sometimes even the people selling these things, they believe that it's the be all end all, right? The answer to your prayers, because they don't understand maybe that there are other or better ways, because there's more than one way, right? To get to the end result, right? So the way you would approach it, the way I would approach it, the way my mom and dad approach it, we're not cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. But I think that we are in a cookie cutter society that, oh, you have that situation, this is what you need. And we throw products at people without fully understanding the back end of what's needed. And you said something before, which is really, really important. I remember when I was selling insurance, a variable life, they had just come out. I'm dating myself. It was in the 80s, right? So the variable life had just come out, which was life insurance. So you were guaranteed you wouldn't lose the money, but the buckets, instead of being in a bond, right, you had these buckets of mutual funds. They were very, very, very costly to run those mutual funds, plus the life insurance with the guarantee. Now, I'm not saying it was a bad product. It was just very specific for a very specific end user. Yeah. So I remember, but see, this is the problem with, I think, the industry sometimes. Mm-hmm. So my manager, it was a new product came out. They wanted us to push it. And I remember, and I'm vocal, right? You've met me, Anna, so you know I'm vocal.
I know.
And I remember, and I was young. I remember I was in my 20s when this was happening.
I know.
And I understood the value of the variable life, but I also understood that it wasn't for everybody. They wanted us to push it on everybody. So I remember we're in a meeting and he said, you have to sell 5 a week of these products. And I hesitated and I raised my hand and I said, okay, I love the product. I think it's really, really good. I love the buckets, all of these things. I think it gives growth potential. what if I don't come with that profile, the perfect client that fits that? You're telling me I have to sell 5. And he says, well, if you don't sell the 5 every Friday, you're going to have to come to a meeting. And we're at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 8 p.m. on a Friday night to learn about the variable life. So I said to him, so basically what you're saying is we're going to go to detention if we don't
Right.
sell the 5, like so he said, like you always have to be a smart mouth. And so I said to him, I go, look, listen, respectfully, I am not going to sell something to someone that isn't a match because I have a quota of 5, because I have to come every Friday night from 5 to 8 p.m. to detention. I said, so here's the deal. There's going to be weeks where I'm going to sell 5 because I've met the right 5 people. And there are going to be times where you and I are going to have Friday nights together. And I'm okay with that because it's my reputation. Oh, they used to get so, and then, all the other people be like, oh, wait a minute. What she's saying is right.
Yeah.
Like, don't lead me by the nose and tell me what to do. But I think people are afraid to, and I was never disrespectful, by the way, Anna.
Yeah,
and if they wanted me to go on a Friday night, I would go on a Friday night. If that's how you want to play, I'll play by the rules, but you're not going to tell me what to sell to someone if they're not the right match. And I don't think enough people, I think they believe that the company believes that they're doing the right thing by saying you should sell 5 of these because it's the best product on earth.
Right.
It's dangerous, right? Do you find that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm so adamant about, organically growing a plan for each client, because they are so different and what they need is so different. There's just certain things in the industry that they are not for everyone. And when you find it for the right client, it's perfect and it fits perfectly. It's just like you heard this in the insurance industry, never do a MEC. But there have been several instances where that is the best thing for the client, just based on their specific needs. So, it's not a never and always thing. It's what is good for this client. And some situations are so specific, and you gotta be able to see that, and it should never, and that's why I'm so happy to be with an agency that doesn't have quotas and doesn't have those things, because it should never be about some quota that I'm trying to do or my personal financial need. It can't, that should not, that's what being a fiduciary is, right? Like
Absolutely.
you have to put the client first, and whatever's going on for me should have nothing to do with that.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, many times in this industry, it definitely does have a play in, this is the new product we're doing, this is a new company, and so I love that doesn't even come into the equation, but it has many times in the past for people.
Yeah. And your agency, Anna and I, the first time we met, we talked about it, and you're the owner of the agency, right? When you finally found him and you were talking, he was like, you're like the perfect person we're looking for, because you are honorable and you are in integrity and you're heart-centered. That's who my people are. That's how we thrive out there. That's how we're growing our community. So you see, isn't it funny that searching, and as you got your questions answered, you found each other, you found the right person. And then you were like, I need to do this, right? To pay it forward, because there are so many people who were the idiots that and I shouldn't say that, but you shoulda, woulda, coulda, why didn't you do this? And the guy, let me handle the money. And like, don't worry your pretty little minds about that.
Exactly.
Holy crap, that crap is still going on. Just makes my brain hurt. It makes my brain hurt, because how do you disempower? We need to understand money. And that's the other thing. I started with money doesn't grow on trees. And we all have money issues, people, right? I have money issues too. Anna does too. We all do. We have our crap, right?
Yeah.
But you have to get to the real answers to be able to peel back your onion as it relates to money, so you can plan for your future. We're almost out of time, but I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Do you have a simple message? Because I love you. I think everything you stand for is the way it should be in the financial industry. You are the poster child for what should be. I'm not saying what is yet, but you are on a mission, and I love you for this mission. Okay. So do you have a simple message that could help every single person listening, right, with their money, regardless of how much money they have right now or what they're planning on saving? What would be that message?
Yeah. The message is take action and don't procrastinate, because there is a very high cost of waiting. And you might be thinking, well, I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure who to speak with. I don't feel like we have enough money. People tell me that all the time. Do I have to have a certain amount of money to work with you? No, just address it now, because the sooner you do it, the sooner you're going to feel better about it. You may find out that your situation is not as bad as you think. And even if it is, we can create a plan, optimize it, get help now, because you'd be surprised. Time just flies away. And then before you know it, another couple of years has gone by. And so just deal with it now. We're always too busy. It's summertime. Now it's holiday time, whatever the thing is. Just understand that it's so important to just take action now. You're hearing it. This message has come across now. And it's time to make sure that you have things in place.
Yeah. And procrastination, because especially if someone doesn't understand money or someone has debt, whatever people's financial situation is, especially after COVID. I know there was a lot of financial distress, me included, right? With my business and not having income coming in, right? We all face something. Okay. Again, the change was thrust upon us, and the financial, I think when people don't understand money or don't understand the bandwidth of everything that's truly available to us, I think that makes us feel disempowered. So having that conversation and being enlightened as to this is where you are, but it's not where you have to stay. And these are the baby steps to move you forward. But by procrastinating, you're still feeling disempowered, right? You're not empowering yourself, coming up with a plan. It's always about a plan. I feel money and a plan go hand in hand. And I think you live by that. Now, one last question. I'm going to give your email and I'm going to give the website. Guys, I will put this in the show notes for you. But if you'd like to speak with Anna, it's Anna at modfinancial.com, and the website is modfinancial.com. But Anna, do you deal with anybody across the United States? Like, what's your territory, if you will?
I do. Yeah. So I have a virtual practice. So that means I can work with anyone. That means I meet with clients on Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you are. We can, that was something that came from COVID. I have to say, it was a change, but it has been a huge blessing because I'm able to speak with people anywhere that they are. So that's the easiest way.
Yeah, she's licensed. So again, she's a licensed professional. Here's the difference. She's a brilliant licensed professional. Like, she knows what the heck to do with the license. So I highly recommend Anna. Again, Anna at modfinancial.com. Please reach out to her. And even if it's just to have a candid conversation so that you might think it's worse than it is, and Anna could just put it in perspective for you. And another thing, you're saying, well, no 401k, what do I do? There's so many other things. Anna and I talked about this in our brief conversation when we met. My husband and I own real estate. Those assets are growing, which is wonderful, right? As the real estate market grows, but that money it's in our self-directed IRA. That money grows every year as the rental properties, right? It goes back into the account. We don't see the money. When we do retire, those assets will remain there intact because they're a hard asset, they're homes, but we will live off of the income from that. So that's just one example, in addition to my husband's 401k and other things that we have from an investment. There's so many options out there. We don't know about them because we don't know what questions to ask. So please, Anna has asked all the questions. She has peeled back that onion, and she has landed in the right place. And the other thing, it's funny because your education background, like, you stepped in it. Not only did you do it out of your own need, right, to survive, right, that's survival, but you parlayed that into, oh my gosh, this is such valuable information. I have to teach it to other people, right? And you know me, Anna, sales is teaching, and you just really, you exemplify for me what a true sales leader is, right? It's coming from the heart of love, care, and respect, and you live and breathe that. So you are like one of my favorite people out there, especially salespeople out there, because I think you're doing it the right way. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I do feel bad that you had to go through what you went through, but see, you came out the other side with all of this valuable information that people really, really do need. So I know you're on a movement to create that empowerment. And I really am honored that you were on my show and shared your just wonderful information. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're an awesome sauce lady. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover that no matter what change you're going through, you know what, guys, it's easier than you think. And we have resources. I hope my guests, myself, our stories, our ideas, our tips, our strategies are something that you can implement immediately. So here's the deal. Email Anna. Just email her and just say, hey, I think I'd like to have a conversation. And they're free consultations, right, Anna?
That's correct. It's
Yeah. So reach out, pick her brain. Even if it's not right today, maybe she could give you some strategies or tips to start to move your needle and make the change that you really do deserve for your financial future to be just stellar, and that you can go into retirement in a position of power, right? No matter what happens, because we don't know what life's going to bring. That is one of the big changes in life, right? Life itself is filled with change. So Anna, thank you again for being on. Thank you all for listening. I do hope you found today's information just valuable, or as valuable as I found it to be. And certainly I hope that you apply some of the nuggets that Anna shared with you. With that change, if you apply a tip or strategy, results will come. And that's when magic starts happening in your life. So I really do hope you feel empowered and inspired to do something differently to move your financial needle. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again, Anna. And I'll see you next week. Have a great one.